So you've done all the hard work. You ran the experiment, you collected all the data, and now you're staring at a spreadsheet full of numbers. But what does it all mean? What's the story hidden inside all that data? Well, today, we're diving into the statistical tools that help us separate a real, meaningful discovery from what could just be random noise.
And this, right here, is the million-dollar question every single researcher has to ask themselves. Did your treatment, your experiment, whatever it was, actually cause a real effect? Or did the numbers just happen to fall that way by pure luck? It's not just a philosophical thing. It's a question we can answer with math.
And the way we answer it is with our trusty toolkit, statistics. Statistics gives us a clear, structured way to figure out if the patterns we think we're seeing are legitimate, or if we're basically just tricking ourselves.
Okay, but before we can jump into the deep end and start testing big ideas, we've got to get a feel for our data. The very first step is to kind of find its center of gravity, and we do that with a few key measurements.
First up, the mean. You almost certainly know this one. It's the good old average. You just add up all your values, divide by how many you have, and boom, you've got your mean. Next, we've got the median. For this one, you line up all your data points from smallest to largest, and the median is just the number that's smack dab in the middle of the list.
And rounding out our trio is the mode. This one's the easiest of all. It's simply the number that shows up most often in your data.
But here's the catch. Just knowing the center of your data doesn't tell you the whole story, not even close. You could have two completely different sets of results that have the exact same average. To really get what's going on, we need to know how spread out or how clustered together our data points are.
And that brings us to our next really important tool, standard deviation. Now, don't let that formula on the screen scare you. You don't need to memorize it. The only thing you need to remember is what it does. Standard deviation gives you a single number that tells you how much your data typically varies from the average.
Think of it like this. A small standard deviation is great news. It means all your data points are huddled together really close to the average. That suggests your results are pretty consistent and reliable. On the other hand, a large standard deviation means your data is all over the place, which makes your conclusions a little less certain.
So, the next time you're looking at a bar chart in a study, keep an eye out for these little T-shapes on top of the bars. They're called error bars, and they're basically a picture of the standard deviation for that group of data.
Okay, so how do you actually read these things? It's pretty straightforward, and it's a super useful shortcut. If the error bars from two different bars on a chart overlap, that's a hint that the difference between those two results might not be real. It could just be random chance. But if there's a nice, clean gap between them and they don't overlap, that's a really strong sign that the difference you're seeing is probably legit.
All right, so we've got a handle on describing our data, and we know that error bars can give us a nice visual clue about whether a difference is important. But a clue isn't proof. Now it's time to get formal and really test our results. And this entire process always starts with a very skeptical assumption.
This statement right here is called the null hypothesis. It's kind of the central idea in all of statistical testing. You can think of it as the default position, the ultimate skeptic in the room. It basically starts by saying, nope, nothing interesting is happening here. Any difference you see is just a random coincidence. Our job as researchers is to gather enough evidence to prove that skeptic wrong.
So, how do we fight back against this default nothing is happening assumption? We use a test. And when we're working with data that involves counting things in different categories, like how many yellow mice versus gray mice we have, our weapon of choice is the chi-squared test.
All right, enough theory. Let's get our hands dirty and actually walk through how one of these tests works in the real world. We're going to see how we can go from just a bunch of numbers to a really solid, powerful conclusion, step by step.
So here's the setup. We did a genetic cross with some mice, and in the end we counted the offspring. We observed 140 with yellow fur and 68 with gray fur. Now, basic genetics gives us a prediction for what that ratio should be. So the big question is the difference between what we actually got and what we predicted a real, significant finding, or was it just a random fluke?
Don't worry, we're going to break this down into 4 simple steps. First, we'll figure out the numbers that genetic theory expects us to see. Second, we'll calculate our test statistic, that chi-squared value. Third, we'll look up a special benchmark number called the critical value. And finally, we'll compare our number to that benchmark to make the final call.
Okay, step 1. It's pretty simple, really.
We can't know if our results are surprising until we know what normal is supposed to look like. So we have to calculate the expected numbers based on the genetic theory, which, for this cross, predicts a 3-to-1 ratio of yellow to gray mice.
We had 208 little mice in total, so the math is pretty easy. We'd expect 3/4 of them, which is 156, to be yellow, and we'd expect 1/4, which is 52, to be gray. Right away, you can see that our observed numbers are a little different from what we expected. Now we're on to step 2, calculating the chi-squared value. We just plug our numbers into this formula for each category. For the yellow mice, we take our observed number minus our expected, we square that difference, then divide by the expected. We do the same thing for the gray mice, and then we just add those two results together.
And when you punch all those numbers in, voila! We get our chi-squared value, 6.564. Now, this number by itself doesn't mean much. It's just a measure of how big the gap is between our reality and our expectations. The bigger the number, the bigger the gap. But the question is it big enough?
And that brings us to step 3. We have this number, 6.564, but we need something to compare it to. That's where this critical value comes in. We get it from a standard statistics table, and it basically tells us the cutoff point. It's our line in the sand. Anything below this value could easily happen by chance. For our experiment, that critical value is 3.841.
And now, the moment of truth. This is what it all comes down to. We have our calculated value from our own data, and we have our critical value from the table. It's time to put them head-to-head and deliver the verdict.
Okay, let's just put them right next to each other. The value we calculated from our mouse experiment is 6.564. The critical value, our line in the sand, is 3.841. I think you can see where this is going.
And here is the golden rule, the one thing you need to remember. If the value you calculated from your data is bigger than that critical value from the table, then you have enough evidence to throw out that skeptical null hypothesis.
Our number, 6.564, is way bigger than 3.841. So we make the call. We officially reject the null hypothesis. We told that skeptic, prove me wrong. And guess what? We did.
So what does rejecting the null hypothesis actually mean in plain English? It means our results are real. They're statistically significant. That difference we saw between the mice we got and the mice we expected is just too big to be a random accident. It tells us that something else, something beyond our simple 3-to-1 prediction, is actually influencing the outcome here.
And look at that. We went from a simple list of mouse colors to a real scientific conclusion. By using these exact tools, you can go beyond just describing what you found. You can actually test your ideas and uncover the real story that's hiding in your data. So the only question left is, what will you discover?